Galatians chapter 6, verses 3 and 4 reads this way, "For if anyone thinks he's something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor." In the book that I intend to write someday about the pastoral ministry, I am going to include a chapter called "The Monkey in the Middle." This refers to a kid's game where two children throw another's object back and forth, trying to keep the other from catching it. It is a situation that often happens when two parties in the church come at odds with each other. The scenario goes like this. One party goes to the pastor and states, "So-and-so did this, deal with it, pastor." The pastor then unwisely goes to the offending one in order to deal with the issue. However, the offending one retorts that the other party actually created the problem. In this scenario, the pastor has become the monkey in the middle, running back and forth between two offending parties. Eventually, the wise pastor remembers that the biblical way to resolve a problem between two Christians is to have them sit down together in Christian love to resolve their issue. Right. This is how it should work. But in my experience, it rarely happens, or it often doesn't happen this way. So in a typical situation, here's what happens in this meeting. One side is unwilling to forgive. The other side is unwilling to admit that their actions, whether right or wrong, hurt the other party, and then they're not willing to express remorse for the hurt that they caused. The problem here is one of pride. Yes, this is what happens when two proud people have an issue with one another. When they meet, it's like two male doll sheep butting heads over ewes during the mating season. Eventually, one leaves, but both have a headache. Moreover, the animosity between the two people has not been resolved. This is not the way of the law of Christ. You see, pride kills the fulfillment of the law of Christ. That is the law of love. Neither party is willing to step back from their prideful position to that of humility, which will manifest itself in love. And this is the point of Paul's words here, when he states, "For if anyone thinks he is something when he's nothing, he deceives himself." To fulfill the law of love in restoring a falling brother or helping one who is in a trying situation of any sort, one cannot be conceited. One cannot think that they are above it all and look down upon the other person. The spiritual person, that is the one led by the Spirit, does not carry such prideful attitudes. Paul goes on to say this, "But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor." In other words, the spiritual people will have a humble opinion of themselves. They will realize that they need to approach every situation in a Christ-like manner. And they also have their own struggles and perfections. They will realize that reconciliation, restoration, and love for one another is Christ's goal for every member of his church. So it behooves every believer to examine themselves, asking these questions before confronting or trying to help another person carry a heavy load. Question number 1, am I acting as a spiritual person should act? And question number 2, am I displaying the fruit of the Spirit in my life? For if you are not led by the Spirit, you cannot fulfill the law of Christ in handling any situation with another person. Think about these words.